Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated to providing you with life strategies with a little bit of entrepreneur advice. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey everyone, welcome to the Networking with Michelle show. I'm your host, Michelle Gomez, and this is it. This is the last episode of 2017, and I just wanted to say thank you. So much has happened this year, good, bad, fairly ugly, right? But I'm just grateful for you rocking with me from beginning to end, whether it's, December 11, 2017, or you've been here from the beginning, episode 1 in 2015. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. And I cannot continue to put out these episodes without your continuous support. And I'm so grateful and so humbled. And I just want to say thank you. Today's episode is a great episode. I think this is probably one of the most appropriate episodes to end with. LaToshia Norwood, I've been a fan of hers for several years, maybe 3 or 4 years. Good friend, good colleague. I'm here in Houston. The woman's brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. And there was no better way than to end this year than by interviewing her. And she just delivered as she always does, right? I've been able to hear her speak and just take time to get to know her, one-on-one conversations. And the insight that I've been getting from her over the past couple of years, she was gracious enough to share her time in order for me to share the same insight and information to y'all. And I'm not going to go into the details because I think it's just something you need to listen and you need to learn and reflect as to what this year has meant to you and just life in general when it comes to business, family, and all of those great things that we live for. Shout out to her husband, Will Norwood. Great man, great supportive guy. I just love watching them. I commend them both on the work that they do here in Houston and beyond. And yeah, it's a great interview. I hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, LaToshia Norwood. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Networking with Michelle show. Today's special guest is LaToshia Norwood, founder of L. Associates, a full-service project management consulting firm that is dedicated to improving clients' business performance and profitability. LaToshia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Good to finally get you here. Been admiring your work for a long time.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
All right, L. Associates and Associates.
Yes.
How did you get that name?
So, it's a combination of my first and my middle name.
Okay.
So, of course, first name LaToshia, middle name Renee.
Okay.
I love that people try to make it very French and fancy, so they call it no, it's just El Renee. But it was something that was really not necessarily an ode to me, but more an ode to my parents.
Mm.
When you are a woman and you decide to get married, you take on your husband's family name and your surname drops off. So I decided to build a business so that I could still have some brand identity, but also as a ode to honor my parents as well.
I love it. I've always been curious about that. And then sometimes I want to call you that, but I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I'm not for sure where this name comes from.
You wouldn't be the first. I get emails all the time. Hi, El Renee. Okay. Thanks. Hi.
All right. So a little bit about your background. I believe you told me you've done pretty much everything, education, marketing, but give us a quick snapshot of what you were doing before you started your business.
Sure. So my career started, just like you mentioned, in education. straight out of college, I was actually volunteering with an organization at a local elementary school, public school in Houston, and was working with the students. And one of the principals, one of the administrators, ended up passing by the classroom. And afterwards, she asked me to step out so she could talk to me. And she offered me a position on the spot as a long-term sub. And I was fresh out of college and majored in education. But of course, that's not always the easiest industry to transition into unless you have certain credentials. And at that time, I didn't have those credentials. I didn't have the certification that public educators require in order to have a full-time classroom. So we talked, and she did everything she could to bring me into her school. So I started a couple weeks later as a full-time sub.
Wow.
And I was blessed with the classroom of Bad News Bears. From what I learned later, many other subs ran out of the room crying because the kids were so horrible. And thankfully, that didn't happen to me. I will never forget my first substituting position before I got in that assignment. I walked into the classroom early. I wanted to review the lesson plans. I wanted to get familiar with the way that the teacher ran her classroom every day. And one of the students happened to peek in before class started and saw my face and said, "Substitute." Yes. And I said, "Oh yeah, you don't know what you're in store for." So that actually set the tone for my career in education for always and forever. And so that particular principal stopped by my classroom of that particular assignment that day and invited me out in the hallway. And she said, "What did you do to them? They are so mannerable and quiet." And I just said, "No, what I did was I set the expectations." And I think it's really important in business, no matter what you're doing, to be able to set solid expectations, because once you do that, everybody understands, what the law of the land is, and then they have a decision to make, whether they abide or they decide to contest, and then there are consequences for that. So that carried me even into being a long-term sub, and I did that for 48 students in one classroom all day, every day. And
what grade was that?
That was 4th grade.
Okay.
And I will never forget that I would have teachers that would stop me in the hallway and just give me a hug just randomly. And I did not know why. Later, I found out, again, the story about the substitutes who had gone home crying and the teacher that just quit mid-year and said, "I can't do this anymore." And many of those students now are adults with children who now see me in the grocery store and revert back to being a 4th grader.
You're so young. You're so young.
I will keep that. So, yes, I started out as an educator. I went on to get my certification, taught for about 7 school years here in Houston for HISD. I was a head volleyball coach, and then transitioned to Omaha, Nebraska. And I was an educator there and a head volleyball coach for one of the local high schools, and started teaching teachers how to teach here in Houston, and then carried that over in Omaha. And then was pulled by the district office to come in to start writing their standardized tests for the district, and was on the path to becoming an administrator. And I was at a roadblock, and I thought, okay, I can stay in education and do great work and have about a 17-minute lunch, which was supposed to be 30 minutes, and then deal with the bureaucracy and other things, and not being able to utilize all the talents that I had. And I made a decision to transition from education into sales. And wow, what a transition that was. I was talking to one of my mentors, and he called me coach. He said, "Hey, coach, what's up?" And I said, "I'm thinking about leaving education." And he said, "Why? They need good teachers like you." And I said, "I know, but I just really feel like I'm not using all the talents that I have. And I feel like I'm, there's more for me out there. I'm just not really sure what that is." So he started talking to me about sales, and he was the general manager of a Toyota dealership in Omaha. And I said, "Forget it, I'm not selling cars." And he said, "No, I'm talking about broadcast media sales." And it was not an industry that I was familiar with. So I started researching, and I came across a couple people who had that job, and I interviewed them. And I said, "What do you do? What do you like about what you do? What do you hate? How much do you make?" And my husband teases me all the time that I ask very direct questions and personal questions, but I mean, you can either say I want to tell you or I don't.
True.
So after learning how much they earn and understanding the job they could do, I said I could do that. So I ended up interviewing for the CBS affiliate. And before even going in, they make you take all these tests. And I did the testing, and they invited me in for an interview, and I ended up interviewing with the general manager of the station, which would equate to the president of the company.
Oh, wow.
And I'll never forget, he was a very straight shooter in a boardroom setting. And he asked me a question, what do you think qualifies you to, transition into being in sales with one of the top media companies in this market, and you have absolutely no experience? And I looked at him and I said, I have more experience than anyone on your staff. If I can sell middle school students every single day to come, to show up on time, to buy into what I'm teaching them, to turn in their assignments, clearly it's not rocket science. I can sell TV. And so, of course, it almost knocked him out of his seat. And he offered me the job on the spot.
Of course.
And he told me what they were willing to pay me, and I said, thanks, but no thanks. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I can make more money in education. Why would I transition and make a lateral move? That just doesn't make sense. And so he said, well, think about it. And I said, I just did. I can't make that kind of a move. And so he said, well, why don't you go home and just think about it? And I said, okay, but I had already made up my mind. So he reached out to my mentor, who he was, in close acquaintance with, just based on business. And he never calls me. So my mentor calls me and he says, Coach, I don't know what you did in this interview, but they said that you scored the highest on this battery exam that they've ever given. And he was really impressed with you, and he wants to offer you this job. And he wanted me to convince you to take it. And I said, well, you should have told him to give me more money. And so he said, well, what's your number? Now, in education, you don't negotiate salary. You just go based on the salary grade. So I came up with the number, and he got really close, and I made a decision to do it. So I worked in sales and managing projects and accounts for the CBS affiliate in Omaha. And then my mother's health started to decline, and decided to move back home to Houston. And so affiliates are not like cousins or franchises. So they are their own separate entity. So when I decided to transition back home to Houston, I had to find another job, and I really loved what I was doing. And so I decided to interview with the CBS affiliate in Houston, which is our Channel 11. And Houston is a top 10 markets, and Omaha is probably a 60 market. So it's a big jump. And so here I am again, going in and selling myself. And they had been interviewing for months and had not found the perfect person. So ended up interviewing, was offered the position, had to go negotiate again, and was able to come to a happy medium. And came back home to Houston, and I worked at Channel 11 for almost 8 years, and worked on some amazing accounts and projects. Worked with a lot of local, national, and international companies. And along that way, I got that itch again that I felt like, you know what, I want to own my own company, but I don't know what it's going to look like yet. So I asked one of my colleagues to help me sneak into, and when I say sneak into, we had access to it, but it was for, quick use. But I said, hey, I want to take a picture at the general manager's desk. So it was her office, and then she was promoted to president of the station. So her office was available to us. So I said, I want you to take a picture of me at her desk. And I love that it has a view. And at the time, I didn't realize what I was creating was a vision for myself. And so he was like, well, why do you want me to take this? And I said, because when I own my own company, or when I advance my career, I'm going to have an office with a window seat. He said, okay. So I went and took the picture and posted it in my cubicle for everyone to see, and all the other things that I wanted to accomplish. And so when I started getting that itch again, I was talking to one of my best friends, and I was telling her what I love to do. And she said, gosh, that sounds like project management. Never heard of it. So I started researching again, saw how much they could make, and said, I can do that. So in order to become a certified project manager, it's a process. So I started studying, and it's not one of those exams that you can just go in and pass on your own. It requires some education, some tutorials, some courses. So Channel 11 didn't offer reimbursement for that. So I ended up investing about $10,000 out of my pocket to prepare me for the certification exam. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do it like Groundhog Day. I would do it every day because it was one of the best investments that I ever made in myself. So once I achieved my certification, I decided to transition from Channel 11 and work for another company. Started my company at that time and then started working full-time for another company managing projects. And then transitioned from there and decided, you know what, it's time.
So when you started the project management process, did you see how it was going to fit into your current role? Or was it just solely focusing on entrepreneurship at the time?
So I wish I could say that I had a clear perspective of what it was going to look like. When I took the position, the full-time position as a project manager, I just knew, and I would tell my colleagues, hey, you know, this is just a means to me gaining as much, I call it professional equity, as possible so that I could take that and roll that into my own company. And so, you know, I was very clear about that, but I still wasn't sure what it looked like. And so what I've been able to do is to take the equity of everything that I've done professionally and to roll it into the company and to really be proud of the work that I get a chance to do. The work that I do creates legacy that will last forever.
I love it. So I want to back up a little bit because we have a lot of people, obviously most of them have their bachelor's degree. Some are in grad school or they're considering like, what's the next step in my education? So can you give some insight to what is project management as well as that process of obtaining the certification?
Sure. So project management is a methodology that's used by every industry. Most folks think that it's just useful for IT and construction, but any sophisticated organization that's managing projects should be using some methodology or offspring of project management. You might hear Agile or Scrum or Six Sigma. All of those are derivatives of project management. And so it really is a blueprint that helps you as a professional or an organization to understand how to take a project through its full life cycle, how you kick it off, how you go into planning and making sure that everything that could be considered for that project, whether it's communication, risk, scheduling, quality, the stakeholders, everything that you need to look at before you even say go, that you address those things so that if in fact something happens, everybody's not running frantically. You can say, I have a plan for that. And if that plan doesn't work, I've got a plan for that. And so it just really takes you through that planning process. And once the project kicks off, there's a process of making sure that you're checking off and getting those quick wins to make sure you're doing exactly what you should be doing. And if there is a need for change, that you have a proper process that you go through that's more standardized and not just a knee-jerk reaction. And then once you've achieved everything that you said you would, then there's a process for handing it off and closing out the project. So there are three different ways that people look at project management. There's a project management life cycle, there's a project life cycle, and a product life cycle. And so project management encompasses all of those things. So any company from NASA to Fluor, Schlumberger, many companies utilize project management as their methodology and their approach, and they also employ project managers, program managers, and portfolio managers to make sure that what they promise that they're going to do, they're going to deliver. And companies who don't use it, we see through our research that for every $1 billion that's invested, over $200+ million are wasted through lack of process or having the appropriate professional in place to be able to manage it. And that's a lot of waste. And it can even get into the 900 million.
So when should someone consider investing in project management certification or just anything post-bachelor degree?
So that is something that I have been promoting. You don't have to have a degree in order to pursue your PMP certification. Okay. If you have what they consider a diploma or if you have completed a 2-year program and you have your associate's degree, the difference is the number of project management hours that you would need to be able to justify. So you need 7,500 hours of project management experience in order to submit your application to be considered for the certification. And if you already have it, then that number is a little bit less. But the unique thing is when we're looking at salaries for project managers, the median salary is a 6-figure salary for a certified PM. Now, it doesn't mean when you graduate high school and you go and you sit for the exam that guarantees you that.
Yeah.
It might guarantee you a $60,000 salary, which is very different from many other careers at an entry point. So you do not have to have a college degree in order to sit for the exam. You just have to be able to justify that you have the experience, and you also have to take a boot camp course to have some formal education that helps you to prepare you for the way that PMI says. And PMI is the Project Management Institute, is our governing body, the way that they say that projects should be handled.
And the organization you're over, what's your role and how do they help project managers?
Sure. So PMI is the global organization, and then many of the major cities have their own affiliate chapters. So Houston was actually the very first affiliate chapter from Global.
Oh, wow.
And now we are the 4th largest. And I am one of the vice presidents. So I'm also one of the liaisons that they send across the country to learn what are the standards, what's going on within the industry. And then we also are responsible for making sure that we share that knowledge and implementation here in the local market.
So earlier you mentioned that your work creates legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So what has entrepreneurship provided you?
Gosh. Tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes. Entrepreneurship has provided me flexibility, the opportunity to really be a blessing to others. What I do is ministry work. When I'm sitting down with someone, I really want to understand, what does the end look like? And when I say the end, not when we are putting dirt on top of them, but what are you trying to accomplish? What does that look like? And I love helping them to put together a blueprint so that they can actually follow it and take it from thought to reality. So entrepreneurship has given me the opportunity to learn so much about many industries, to meet some amazing folks, to go in to help them to achieve their business goals, to help them to launch new businesses, and to create opportunities for many entrepreneurs to come together to just gain access to resources and knowledge that will educate them, encourage them, and empower them to be able to achieve their goals, whatever that looks like.
What does your legacy look like?
My legacy is creating a viable business that my daughter, Layla, has the ability to say, I'm going to receive residual income based on this company when my mother decides to go to glory and hang out with grandma.
Okay.
But also a company that men and women can look back and say, I had a seed that was planted in me a long time ago that, even now when I see folks who are just doing gangbusters, amazing, they'll come back and say, I remember being in your office and forcing me to develop processes and putting boxes and arrows together. And I still refer to that. I still reflect on that now, 3 years in the business, winning business plan competitions and all those things. That's really a blessing. I'm not looking for any kind of accolades or any platinum gold stars or anything like that, or maybe a couple gems on my crown when I see Jesus. But it's just a blessing to be a blessing. Both my husband and I are pretty passionate about doing that.
How do you manage privacy while continuously building your personal brand?
I'm an open book. I think that there are...
Really?
I do. I think that there are some things that aren't necessary to share. But if someone were to ask me about my journey of, what entrepreneurship looks like, I'm going to always tell them it's not as sexy as it seems on the outside. I did a presentation the other day on the topic was called #Unbothered, and the subtitle was F it. And people were a little uncomfortable about the F it. But I talked the realness about as an entrepreneur, you see me on a magazine cover, you see me featured in Black Enterprise, but you don't see me up in the morning at 3 a.m. with my hair wrapped, holding my daughter and feeding her a bottle while I'm trying to respond to an email, and I'm trying to take advantage of the morning when she's kind of sort of sleepy so that I can still, get a chance to service my clients. So you don't see me up at 3 a.m. working on a presentation that I've got to do at 7 because that's the only window of time that I have. And so I think that there is so much opportunity and lesson in being authentic and real and honest. So if someone were to ask me, the realness about balancing entrepreneurship, being a wife, being a mom, I'm going to be honest. I think that, it's healing for me. It's therapy for me. It helps me to be able to see the realness and not to hide behind the tears or to put on a fake smile, but to be real and authentic. And through that, you're able to help somebody else realize, I am normal, or that is okay. My story is very different from what everybody else looks like, but it's my imperfection, which is perfection in itself. So I don't really think that it's a need for me to, go out and tell everybody, hey, let me tell you what happened. But if someone were to ask me a question, I'm going to be authentic, I'm going to be real, and I'm going to be honest. Because I think that there is freedom in that, and there's a blessing in that. I call every testimony, I capitalize the test. Because in order for you to have a testimony, you've got to go through some stuff in order to be able to tell somebody else about it and to be a blessing. The book that I'm writing is an ode to my mom. She used to give me advice all the time. She would say, eat the fruit, spit out the seeds. She'd give me that advice for everything. And I'm like, but what does that have to do with the test that I failed? Eat the fruit, spit out the seeds. Okay, I got that. But what about? And so as I grew up, I realized the message of what she said, and the meaning grew. And I feel like in order for you to reap the harvest of a seed that you planted, it has to be fertilized, right? You've got to prune it, you've got to prepare the soil, but then it has to be fertilized, and that fertilization comes through water. And sometimes in our lives, that water is our tears. And so in order for you to be able to breathe life into those ideas and into the things that you want to see and accomplish, you got to go through some things. It's not always going to be smiling and roses, but that's okay. It's just a part of the journey. You learn to appreciate it on the back end. So,
can women have it all?
You know what? I think it depends on what you consider all. I think all is relative. All to somebody might not include a husband and children. It just might include being a successful business. I think success is relative. It doesn't mean you have to earn $100,000 every month to be successful. Somebody might say, I'm good if I can, clear $5,000 a month, so yeah. I think you can have it all. I think it just really depends on what you consider all, and stop using other people as your measurement, and be clear with yourself about what all really looks like, and being able to manage your own expectations of what that is.
How did you learn to set expectations?
I'm still learning. It changes, it evolves every single day. 2017 was a year of newness for me. Being a new mom, balancing being a mom and a wife, balancing being a mom, a wife, and a business owner, and myself. So I think it's just an ever-changing thing, but if you just embrace it and realize that, even though it might look like it's overwhelming or it's something that is unimaginable, you even feel like you're drowning sometimes, but if you just stand up, you might feel like you're drowning, but you're in 3 feet water, and I'm 5'7", so just stand up, or go to sleep and wake up, and it's a new day. So I think that I don't think that I've evolved to the point where I have all the answers, but I've given myself permission to figure it out as it comes.
What else do we need to know? What else do I need to know?
I don't know.
What do you
want to know?
What are you not sharing that the world needs to know?
I can't think of anything. I mean, you asked me, was anything off limits? And I said no. I can't think of anything else. I just think that it's important to just be authentic and real. I think if you pay attention to what people publish Most of the time people publish the amazing things. I don't utilize social media to really air out my personal feelings about politics or business and things like that. Typically when I'm posting something, it's more motivational than anything. But the advice, if anything, that I would give is to not use anyone else's story as a measuring stick for your success, because it's going to look very different. And it's okay to be uniquely you, and all of the imperfections make you perfectly who you are. And if you continue to be very focused and clear on what your objectives are, and to be honest with yourself about some of the things that you have to change in order to accomplish that, I think that you can accomplish it and you can have it all, which is what your question was. Do you feel like you can have it all? I think you can. If you're realistic and you're setting your expectations of what success looks like for you.
And how do you define success?
For me, I define success through failing, through learning new things, through challenging myself, helping someone else, and making my mother proud.
Well, you're already successful.
Well, thank you. But it doesn't stop. I mean, it's just like in business development. I remember closing a deal for about $300,000, and everybody was like, "Yay, that's so great!" And then the next day they were like, "So today." And I mean, that's what it's like in entrepreneurship and in business. You know, you can celebrate the wins. I think it's important to take a moment to appreciate them, because I'll just keep rolling, and people will say, "Man, I can't believe you just hosted this event, or you just did this, or you got this award." And I'm like, yeah, that's right. But I'm so focused on moving that sometimes I have to remind myself to sit still long enough to be able to appreciate it. So thank you for acknowledging that success, but I still have a whole lot more work to do.
What can we expect? 2018 is here.
2018 will be a year for my project, She Said, She Led, She Is, to go on the road. We've already secured a couple of locations outside of the state of Texas, which I'm very happy about. We'll have some ancillary events that we'll do for that, and that is all about encouraging women to see each other as compadres and not competitors, and to create an opportunity for them to learn, to grow, to challenge themselves, and to connect to opportunities. And El Renee and Associates will continue to thrive. We have opened up our e-learning platform, so we're going to be offering more courses that business owners and aspiring business owners will have access to all over the world. We have clients over in the UK and in Ghana. While I'm not always able to travel and to have that immediate one-on-one with them, now having the ability to provide that kind of programming for them at their fingertips on demand is just awesome. And who knows what else God's work is for me, and what he's going to tell me that I need to do. But I know that if he gives me the vision, he'll provide the vision for it. So
I love it. I love it. You know, I admire you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's awesome that you highlight women, men who are doing great things in business, and that you allow us the platform to share our story. So thank you for what you do. You're welcome.
You're welcome. I'm just so grateful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, everyone. How can we contact you? What's your favorite platform? All that kind of stuff.
Sure. So, let me tell you, because Michelle kind of gave you a snippet of what we do. So, El Renee and Associates, we're a project management consultancy firm that supports organizations by providing consulting, training, and recruiting. We recruit the most qualified and certified project managers and connect them to opportunities to help businesses grow. But we also provide consulting and training for professionals and for companies from the C-suite to the front desk. So if you are interested in learning more about project management, how you can implement those skill sets either in your business, or if you're still in corporate and you're moonlighting and you want to transition into owning your own business, or if you just want the skill sets, you can go to our website. The website is www. I know we don't use that anymore. LReneeLLC.com. That's LRENEELLC.com. And or if you are looking to have access to some e-learning courses that will be available to you on demand, or if you're looking for tools to help you to improve the way that you do business, those can be found there. We're also, of course, on the social media platforms, and you can find us at We Are El Renee. That's WEARELRENEE. And we don't spam, we don't utilize your contact information for our good. It really is just an opportunity for us to share resources and content that we think will be relative to professionals and to businesses.
I love it. I'm gonna bring you back on when you launch your tour.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, everyone. I'm going to have all of that information in the show notes. Remember, personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.